skipped morning period in place for soft study, though I still took a little bit long getting ready. But today I ate some whole flour waffles and schools with a banana. And moving down to Spanish, it was pretty hot heading down to the class, but again, it's still summer in our place, so we have a Conjuguemos assignment along with a 100 verb mini quiz that we would have for that assignment. I made sure to use my mouse at least for this time, but I'd actually forgotten that during this class, well, obviously our teacher did our basic introductions. I had forgotten that our boleto was actually a mini quiz that we had to do, so I got thrown off for a few seconds to why the class was silent. So I realized, oh wait, I'm supposed to be doing this. So it was 6 questions, and we just had to spell out the word from the alphabet sound. And later we continued on practicing more complex Spanish verbs down the line, such as conseguir, to creer. I made sure to put the Italian version of it for extra practice, such as cadere, and later on line paper, we had to also name some random adjectives for an activity. My friend Jude was shy, so I took all the heavy lifting, naming all of the words in front of the teacher, and later she named some special exceptions, gender and agreement, such as problema and realidad. And we filled one part of the worksheet, making it agree with numbers and gender. But the bad part is that she didn't give as much time in class for the conjugamos assignment, so she gave us instructions on the assignment, but people remained mostly quiet at this point. But the activity was pretty fun, as I do describe it. Whoever had the most types of adjectives described gets to win a free point, and I did not win though, sadly. But even though I still came up with a few other words, such as bello. Oh, bello, I said that the Italian way. Heading down for period two, today was a draw writing response, and mostly this class was attentive but mostly quiet. Later, as the teacher was announcing what she's going to do for this class, ASB over the PA announced the pledge and also announced registration for sports, makeups, and pictures. And for humor, one of the ASB council said, "Seniors, 271 days till graduation. Freshmen, 1,371 days." And even the teacher chuckled as it was going on. But later, after such a terrible interruption, for the assignments, we had the CRA response on paper, and we had an excerpt from Geraldo, no last name. We had to answer that prompt and use the CRAW acronym. And I think I was able to do this since the excerpt was mostly in a easy tone, I'm pretty sure, but it was a cynical tone, so I found it a little hard trying to extract certain words. So I know a lot of people definitely during this time used the restroom pass to pass time, even though it was only morning. But it was easy to do, and the topic was difficult to support, even though the context was pretty much clear. Since it was in a cynical tone, it was hard to get the words that at least had a tone that convened toward at least the other side. It was asking like why Gerald's life mattered even though he was dead. But I did observe a lot of people were sad, and my friend just shut off too from my day one meeting. But in my observation, I also noticed that when I was done, the All Star System PC is also always on for restroom users, and I'm noticing this in every single classroom now. There's always a PC that's meant for this, and I know it sparked a lot of controversy throughout the states and throughout the U.S. But in my immediate environment, the quiet environment naturally made it difficult to talk to others. So even as I was done, I wanted to talk to the girl that was right beside me, and I also wanted to talk to this other guy right beside me too, since I think I've met him before. But consequently enough, I was not able to do it, so the music played in the back, mostly lofi style music. But surprisingly, today was light, but that was the only thing that we had to do for the entire period. I actually thought we had more work, so thankfully we were able to finish this up, but I was not able to talk to nobody. It was still pretty hot going down this place. I still saw a lot of my older friends then, but I noticed a lot of people are wearing headphones, so I'm for that. There's a lot of things I have. And even then, the girl on the left was also studying for the anatomy class, and the others around me remained mostly quiet, even though the music was some rock music, but mostly some of that silence music, lofi music. But I still don't know the track. In my paper, it was an excerpt that we had to use acronyms on, but we might also use other acronyms on larger excerpts that you might pull out from this story. A final observation that I had is that I hated having to constantly open the door since I sit near there. So I was able to do things anyway, but it's just annoying just having to get up from my seat and open the door. But anyways, though, nothing really happened. The teacher didn't announce anything, and everybody was mostly working quietly. In math, it was pretty hot, the weather again, heading down to that class, but I was able to make it on time. There was a 2 question quiz and a cast warm up that we need to do as the teacher assigns us juniors. The teacher made an announcement for late work, and we should turn it in on time. The 2 questions were practically just matching the a value of a parabola and x coordinates of a parabola, and it was fairly easy. I finished it while the teacher was just passing it down. It was only 2 questions. For the Delta Math review, I also found it easy because, well, I'm pretty much a nerd in math. So for problems such as like -4/5a is equal to 6, I just convert -4/5 into -0.8 and then divide instead of using reciprocals and all that. So eventually I was able to do it and find the a value. For other problems such as 2 equals w plus 9, for example, I would do it by just guessing instead of on paper. It is all of the basics that we reviewed from last year. But I also noticed others went past and went straight to the workbook further than me. Next lesson, as we continue on, is a math quadratic review, and the lesson was titled Flipping Ferraris. And we named factors of cars and brakes and how they contribute toward a driving. And we worked on the equation y equals 0.03x squared, as resulting into terms of the speed of this given Ferrari in dry roads and how long it would take for this given Ferrari to stop. And if we're going an X amount of mph, we should keep this feet away from a given object or person. The key question was if a car goes twice as fast, will the braking distance be twice as far? Which is obviously no. But next is that if we graph this equation on the book, and we had to do that, it was also difficult because they print it super, super small. So even if I want to make this look exactly as it is, having to count like 1, 2, 3 on the tiny little cubes makes it very difficult. But I was able to do so. The teacher helped us do it since it was small. And during the lesson, I do describe the teacher as incredibly eccentric. And even though my line was pretty bad for this given equation, my teacher told us for fun to calculate the car's max speed, and the distance was pretty far at 217 for the x value. Next was we also had to answer the domain and range for all of them. We weren't able to finish this lesson, but we'll continue this tomorrow. But it was pretty cool. Heading down for science, when I walked down to period 4, I said again, I don't remember my number. And my teacher said, "This is the last time I'm doing this." And I understand why, but this is the last time, quote unquote. And my teacher said the number was 21 in the phone catty. And she said today that we're going to finish this final part of notes until we go on more note journey taking. In an eccentric manner, she announced that we have to turn in the digital copies of our syllabus and a lot of the things. And she also notes the problems that came with it because the admins are telling all the school officials to force digital copies. Now we have to do it. So even though there's a lot of problems, past those notes, we were able to do it, and we learned about the century of growth and how it supported daily life at the cost of the environment, such as the lead and radium. We also learned about the radium girls, which is one of the most popular legends that date back to the 1940s, and how they use this as a status symbol, but also killed them eventually. How they all got cancer. We learned about this use in World War II in radium in terms of that soldiers need to tell the time in order to coordinate a given attack. And how a lawsuit was filed then regarding these radium girls, and despite the successes of this in war. But later we also learned about DDT and items meant for war that eventually got commercialized. We learned its effect and in DDT with dead bugs, and if a bird eats 15 mosquitoes that were killed by DDT, a bird eats it, the dose is strong, now that spreads down the food chain. If a lion ends up eating that bird, and then something ends up eating that lion, or if a wolf eats the bird and then that wolf gets eaten, it just keeps going down and kind of messing with the food chain. She explained it in a super eccentric manner and said that this damages the environment in such a way that it's going to cause a lot of long-term consequences, and how movements back then, such as the Green Movement, helped to counter this. She highlighted now that if we do any of these, we're going to get a lot of extra credit, especially for future presentation projects that might occur in the class. But anyways, though, she highlighted in the lunch quad how nobody owns the lunch quad. Everyone eats everybody's space. But the thing is that this results in that not many people are responsible for trash. And that means that if this was explicitly owned by a class, like if a class owned this given lunch table or given lunch quad itself, then they're responsible for cleaning it up. Like you'd expect this given class, if it's seniors, juniors, or freshmen, or sophomores, if they had this role of cleaning up the trash, then they're going to clean up the entire place. But since it's not owned by anyone, well, trash is left behind. There's a lot of things that are left. The teacher highlights this, the tragedy of the commons, and then presented us a TED Ed video about tragedy of the commons. The video was a video about lake and fishermen. And later she told us a story when she was in Montclair College in relation to the information globalization and how they use this giant machine to grade papers. And I also observed, even as this was going on, the teacher did tell the class to shush a little bit of times, but she didn't mention exact names and she didn't mention exactly who. I observed as I also yawned physically. There was also another boy and another girl who yawned near me just after I yawned. So kind of like a mini mention there. Later was the actual notes again, Environment and the Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich. We learned how richer people have higher standards like us, and how also false beliefs that this or that wouldn't happen also cause dangerous situations such as Chernobyl or the Exxon Valdez spill. So she's jumping on multiple topics multiple different times, and she says that she's going to mention this at least a lot. But we learned about the 1970s decade of clean approaches, and most of the class was loud at this time. And I also overheard a few conversations here and there. But a funny thing she said relating to this is that if there's people like the USA everywhere, there'd be no more Earth. And the class laughed a little bit, but as we did these notes and finally did it, the lights were off, and the teacher finished the final part where we have to note the pros and cons of dealing with this type of future. Since the green future is a little bit more expensive, it's going to cost a lot of money. But the thing is that on the other ending, where we just use industrialize, that's even worse. So the teacher made us list the pros and cons of this, whether it's one ending or the other or mixed together. And she said she might review this later on as a reference. But in terms of the lunch period today, very hot again. But I'd metaphorically say that we're back at one of our home stadiums and back at the group near the library where there was once a larger group. And most of the conversation was chill. And of course, the boys' restroom as I was headed there was as full as a pack of chips. But despite the hot weather, I made it to the group and they were mostly chill and funny people. But like I did my basic introductions and it was even conversation 4 out of 4 since it drifted from makeup stuffs, bugs, and would you rathers, and some other cool topics that I don't remember. I was chill, and I think everybody was also nicely relaxed. Thankfully, there were no dead bugs that anybody touched this time, unlike last week, so it remained generally chill though. But in the weather, it was absolutely hot. I could not handle the heat myself, even though we were shaded. I still did not like the fact that this is still summer. I am still going to be going through this heat. But in the baseball metaphor, if we review the conversational metrics, I did the basic fastball introductions, 5 of those, a few sliders, maybe about 5, and maybe a curveball 5, maybe make some funny mentions here and there. In the metaphor, we made it to second base with some local death, but it remained mostly day to day, but I still enjoyed talking nonetheless, so it was great. But anyways, one funny mention that I would like to mention from this group before we go is that we all did a would you rather if you could stay in this room with this person or that person or this person. And, in our group, we all chose different people, but I did the funny mention of we should include everybody and everything that everyone has. So, of course, well, there's some things I can't mention, but I know that one of the people there who likes to do some things in an eccentric way would bring their eccentric things with them. Let's just leave it like that. So now it's pretty funny. Credit to you guys. I'm down to period 5 for social studies, or should we say American history. Today I heard my freestyle writing, and our bell work today is slavery in the American colonies. We learned about the role of slavery in a crash course video, and we also learned about the role of Jamestown, from San Miguel de Guadalupe to the role of racism, in that colored individuals face the most punishment, while others, even indentured white servants, didn't face as much because they were white. We also learned about Johnson and his role of history, despite his history being faded for the rest of his family later on. In the physical work, we made notes from this, and most of the class was attentive toward the screen. And a micro event is that a girl also dropped her water bottle as it happened, so I kind of cringed for like 2 seconds, but it was a little loud. Later, we went to our table of contents slide on our computers, and we had to copy slide 9 for a new lesson and also copy that as found in our modules. And we had to review 2 sources and answer one type of source, what's known, the specific historical record, and especially one from Robert Hunter. We had to say these with our table friends and exchange information about our thoughts, but these were 6 of these to do step by step, though I still got distracted by others who were on games, but there was also one watching basketball. But later, we answered all of these 6 questions, talked to my partners about it, and I got a stamp for it. And eventually, I put the picture of this on slides to turn in later on. Heading down to period 6, engineering class. And before period 6, most of my P5 class was talkative as we all got ready. There's some conversations here and there about day to day, such as like this lunch period is difficult, or like I don't like doing this class, or like can you hand me this given item, for example. But I do want to note that in the morning, my mom forced me to wear a different shirt because she thinks I'll get judged for saying wearing the same types of clothing every day. Not the same pieces, but same types. But I don't know about that. And today for engineering class, today was going to be a substitute teacher, so a lot of the fear that I had was kind of relaxed. And I'm going to watch that full 11-minute video substitute announced for us that we're going to continue on this cube project. But after watching on that 11-minute video, I sort of get it in terms of getting the shape itself. But in terms of its significance for the larger cube project, I still cannot grasp it exactly without direct one-to-one instruction. So what am I do for this? Because I don't understand it enough, but I only get the basic parts. Like I know how to draw like this given shape. On SolidWorks, but I don't know how to craft the shape into a larger piece that goes onto a cube. So for this, I might have to ask the teacher. I have to pay attention to my friends more. But I know that I am kind of struggling in this. I really do need help. Nonetheless, as a small note that I would like to note is that at home, when I was finishing up one of my Spanish Conjuguemos assignments, I really don't like the fact that whenever we have to translate given words, like this time we're translating Spanish words into English. Like for the example, I got levantar. For everyone who knows it, levantar practically means to wake up or to get up. But the challenge for this is that conjugamos is very specific with words. So even if I say to get up or to do it, do something, it will still get the verb wrong, even though it is correct. And surprisingly, the correct answer that I put was to lift. And I know in nobody's mind is everyone going to think levantar is to lift. I know a lot of people are going to think about to wake up first. But it's just kind of confusing because the Spanish assignment requires like specific answers. There isn't like multiple choice. Even terminar. Terminar is a verb to also finish, but I also put the verb to terminate. And technically, yes, it is correct, but they put to finish, which is almost exactly the same as acabar. But again, a lot of verbs have the same meaning. And the thing is that in conjugamos, it's not exactly being applied here. There's only like one correct answer, or else I'll have to spend like 10 minutes trying to find the exact meaning.